Perfect.
So we are going to, I'll give you a little intro. I'm Michaela. I am primarily a dancer. I got my registered yoga teacher certification about 6 months ago, but I've been doing yoga most of my life just as a cross training. I already talked to Sarah, and so she gave me kind of a little insight. So we're going to focus primarily on core strengthening, hip openers and shoulder openers. If you've taken a yoga class before, some of this should sound pretty familiar, and if not, no worries. If I say things that you don't recognize, I'm going to be doing the whole thing with you, and I'll keep an eye on my phone in case there's sound issues. Just message Sarah and she'll let me know. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So whatever you have, if you have a mat, a blanket, just the floor, whatever works, we'll just go from there. So we're going to start on our hands and knees, creating a tabletop position, so about 90 degrees between your hips and 90 degrees in the shoulders, with our feet pressing down into the ground. And we're going to do some cat-cows. So stretching out the back, just kind of warming it up. We're going to press, releasing the tailbone up towards the ceiling, releasing the head, chin towards the ceiling. And then we're going to reverse it, tucking the tailbone under, gazing your eyes towards your center line. Slowly pressing back, releasing the tailbone, pressing the shoulders, head, neck, and chin up towards the ceiling, and releasing, tucking the tailbone under, creating an arch in the back, shifting your gaze towards your center line, looking at your belly button. We're going to start to add breath. So we're going to inhale to press our tailbone up towards the ceiling and release the head up towards the sky. Inhale. And we're going to exhale, flip that, press the tailbone down in between the legs. Exhale, shifting the eyeballs towards the belly button. One more time like this. Releasing the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Trying to get a nice curve in the back, an arch, releasing. And go ahead and reverse it, tucking the tailbone back down in between the legs. From here, any amount of coordination is okay. We're going to start to make circles with the hips one way. So shifting the hips towards the right and the head towards the left. We're going to rotate the head and hips in opposite directions. If it feels funky, that's all right. Just working on general coordination. Circling the hips left, head left, and reversing the circle. Coming back in towards the center line. We're going to shift the head and hips towards the right. Circling around with the arch, the head releases up towards the sky. Head drops to the left, hips drop to the left, and come back center. One more time like this. Hips and head circle right, and up, and left, and center. And we'll do one last press. Up, arching towards the ceiling. Shoulders, neck, and head release towards the sky. And go ahead and tuck the tailbone under, creating that round and curve in the spine, in the abdominals, and looking towards the belly button. And from here, we're going to go back to tabletop. So the feet right now are about hip width distance apart. So we're going to spread them out a little bit wider. If you have a mat, just bring your knees to the edge of the mat, and we want to bring the soles of our feet together, pressing towards each other. And we're going to press the hips back towards the heels and find our first child's pose of this yoga practice. So really pressing for a long spine. This can either be a relaxation stretch, or you can really be pressing through the palms of your hands, trying to get the longest line you can from the base of your spine to the top of your head. And we're going to hold and press here. And now while you're here, I'm just going to talk. So just increasing that line, pressing into the palms of the hands, making sure that you're actively working through the fingertips. And right here, what we're going to do is we're going to start to focus on the breath and bring that a little bit into our practice. So still holding in your child's pose, just noticing your breath right now and not necessarily changing anything, but noticing that as we start to move and as we start to flow through the yoga practice, that your breath will change. It might get faster at times when we're doing core work. And then towards the end, we'll start to rewind a little bit, decompress, go into more of a meditation stretching. And you'll notice your breath start to get a little more shallow with that. So at any point, you can come back into this child's pose position if something starts to hurt, or you lose your balance, or you just need to Take a little break, come back into child's pose, and keep working for that stretch and lengthening of the spine. This is open to you at any point. So whether I say it or not, just feel free to come back into this position. And so here, what I really want you to focus on is taking inhale through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. So on an inhale, we'll start slow while you're holding in your child's pose, inhaling through the nose, and go ahead and exhale through the mouth, really feeling your chest rising and lowering as you're in this position. One more time together, inhaling through the nose, and lengthening through the spine in your child's pose, exhale through the mouth. Now on your own for just a couple seconds, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth, noticing where your breath is. If it feels like you're holding your breath or trying to catch your breath, just how that feels to you and your body right now. We're just going to take a second to come into that. And we'll hold in child's pose for just one more moment. And slowly coming back to our hands and our knees, we're going to tuck the toes under and press back into our first downward facing dog. So we're going to come into this position a lot. This is another one that if anything ever gets challenging or you just need to take a breather, this is a pretty good active pose that you can come into at any point. So the idea here is we don't want to think of our heels pressing into the ground because that might feel uncomfortable to a lot of us, but we do want to be reaching our heels, the line between the top of our hip and our heel. We want to be creating the longest line possible there. And with our arms, we don't want to, if you have hyperextended arms, you don't want to reach into that, but think of a micro bend and pressing the elbows to the outside walls. And so reaching that oppositional line from the hips to the heel and the shoulders to the tips of the fingertips. We're just going to hold here. Again, noticing the breath here. Has anything changed? We're going to shift it to the left hip, feeling a lengthening in the left leg, relaxing the right just a little, coming back to center, and reversing, pressing into that right hip. So just taking that right hip over a little bit past the center line and pressing there, and coming back to center. On an inhale, we're going to raise the heels of the feet up, and exhale, press them down into the ground. One more time doing this. Rise the heels up on an inhale, and press the heels down on an exhale. Good, and now shifting the gaze to right in between our fingertips at the top of our mat or the floor, whatever space you have. We're just going to take small steps up towards the hands. Feet can be about hip width distance apart. They don't need to be together. We're going to take a little bend in the knees. So you don't want anything straining here, just as much flexibility as you have. We're just going to work in that. So letting the knees bend a little bit, relaxing your chest onto your knees and your thighs, releasing the arms, releasing the head. Go ahead and shake the head yes and no, trying to relieve your neck of any unnecessary tension there. And slowly stretching the legs. We're going to heel toe the feet together and rolling up one vertebrae at a time, just allowing the arms to relax down, tucking the tailbone that we felt in our cat-cow down to up the spine, every vertebrae one at a time, and finding the top. Good, so this is our first standing pose of the practice. Right here, we're going to find Tadasana. So that might sound like a very foreign word to some of us. It's our mountain pose. So what we want to think here is the alignment of our body, shoulders stacked over hips, stacked over heels. The shoulders are rolling back, and we're going to be opening our palms out to the front. So we want to feel energy coming from the fingertips and our arms to feel held and supported by the back. And we'll keep coming back to this as we flow through our Sun A series. So from here, we're going to take a breath up, bringing the arms high to the sky with us. Head can slightly look up towards the fingertips, and coming through a prayer position with the hands, we're going to forward fold back into that position we were just in. Here you can take a little bend of the knees, or if you have a little bit more flexibility, you can straighten them. And with either your hands on your shins or on your thighs, we're going to take a half lift, so just lifting the chest up halfway, to a 90-degree angle. And exhaling, releasing back down towards the ground. From here, we're going to bend the knees, take a step back with the left leg and back with the right leg. And we're going to hold in this high plank position, checking in with ourselves, making sure there's a long line from the shoulders all the way to the heels. And we want our hands to be, our wrists to be just below our shoulders. From here, we're just going to shift back and forth on those toes, feeling a shift in balance. Just forward and back. Last time, forward and back. Now, at any point, you can bend the knees and do a halfway push-up position, but what we're going to go for in this position is shifting forward towards the tops of the feet. My screen went for a second. Shifting forward towards the feet, bringing the shoulders just a little bit forward of the wrists and bringing the elbows in towards us. We're going to go to a low plank, slow and controlled. We're going to move to the tops of our feet, and just from where our hands are, we're going to push up into a cobra, feeling the release in the back. Now, you don't have to go all the way up. It can be half lift, it can be just the chest, whatever feels comfortable to you. Do what you can. We want to press into the tops of our feet. You want an added stretch. You can straighten the legs and really press up through the lengthening of those hips. And we're going to lower all the way down. We're going to curl the tops of the toes under and push up into downward facing dog. So we're back to here. This is kind of our base for now. We're going to keep flowing through, and it's going to keep picking up the pace as we go through this. I'll give you cues as to breath when we inhale, when we exhale. So just try, think more about the breath and prioritize that more than the movement so that everything can feel as natural as possible. From here, we're going to raise the heels up and press them back down. Adding the breath, inhale, lift the heels up. And exhale, release them down towards the ground. Good. Shifting the gaze back towards the fingertips. We're going to step, step, step to hip width distance apart with the legs. Reaching down towards the ground, maybe feeling a little bit less of a strain in the hamstrings, a little bit more flexibility gaining. We're going to heel toe the feet together. And in one swift motion, we're going to come up to our Tadasana mountain pose with the shoulders stacked over the hips, stacked over the heels, and our palms opening to the front. Feeling those shoulders rolling back, feeling energy from the shoulders and the back into the fingertips. Taking one deep breath in through the nose here, and exhale through the mouth. Inhale, we're going to take the arms and head up towards the ceiling. Exhale, we're going to forward fold towards the ground. From here, adding on, we're inhaling, halfway lift, lifting the chest up parallel to the floor. And exhale, releasing down towards the ground. Inhale, we're going to step back into our high plank position. Exhale, we're going to shift forward and all in one swift motion, lowering down. As we inhale next, we come into our cobra position, either halfway or all the way pressing into the tops of those feet. And inhale, downward facing dog. Exhale. Good. Inhale, raising those heels up, feeling added lengthening as we exhale, heels down towards the ground. Energy from the tops of the hips down into the heels. Good. Just take a second here. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. We'll go one more time at about this pace, and then we'll add on a little bit at the end. So shifting the gaze up towards the fingertips, we're going to step, or you can take a hop towards the hands, forward fold. If they're not already together, heel toe the feet back in. And in one swift motion, coming up to standing mountain pose. Hands releasing front, energy coming from the back to the fingertips. Inhale, rising up towards the sky, arms and head. Forward fold, exhale, reaching down back towards the floor. Inhale, halfway lift, chest rises parallel to the ground. And exhale, release. Step, step. Inhale in your high plank. And we're going to exhale, shift forward, low plank. On an inhale, tucking those toes under, pressing into the tops of the feet. Cobra. And last exhale here, downward facing dog. Good. From here, we're going to add on a little bit. So maybe taking a small step forward with both feet. We're going to go into three-legged dog. So what that means is that we're trying to keep the same parallel line from the hips to the heel. We're going to raise one leg. So for me, that's my left leg, whichever leg you decide. I'll call sides, but if you're not on the right side, that's all right. So this is our three-legged dog. If it's lower, that's fine. You just want to work with that parallel line in a flexed foot. Reaching, feeling that energy shifting into the right side while the left leg extends high. You want to really push out through that left heel. Good. And bringing it back down to downward facing dog, feeling that weight shift. And we're going to switch legs. Three-legged dog with the right leg reaching up, feeling energy through that left heel, as well as the right heel pushing away. Two long lines in opposing directions. Good, and bring it back in. One last time, three-legged dog. Energy pressing through the heels. And coming back to center. Last time, right leg reaching high towards the ceiling. And releasing it back center. Good. From here, we're going to step our right foot, bring the knee into the chest, and we're going to step it forward, finding this long lunge line. So one line, pressing through the heel to the hip. You don't want to release the knee right now. We're going to be shooting for a long line in the lunge. You can take that knee down anytime, but we want to go right here. We're going to go for balance. So bringing your center body up right on top of those legs stacked. We're aiming for a 90-degree angle with this front leg, and we're going to bring our hands into prayer pose. Center at the chest. If you notice here, my shoulders are stacked on top of my hips. We ideally want to bring our body up into that one line, and we're going to breathe here. Inhaling through the nose, and exhale through the mouth. One more time here. Inhale through the nose, and exhale through the mouth. This third time, we're going to lift long and high, and on our exhale, we're going to bring our left elbow in front of our right knee and go for a prayer twist. So in this twist, you can't really see from the side, but I'm shooting for my hands to stay at my center body the whole time. So as I'm pressing my elbow into my thigh, I'm really pressing for that opening in the hips, as well as the shoulders, to keep my hands right in between my chest. Feeling a long line still from the top of the head to the heel. Take a deep inhale here through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Getting even longer on the exhale. Twisting even more as we go. And releasing the hand center. We're going to step back, pressing into downward facing dog. Right here, we're going to bend that right knee into the left hip. And just feel an extra stretch in the hamstrings back of the legs. Pressing here, pressing that heel long. And switch. Bending that left leg, pressing into the right heel. Feeling added length in that right thigh. Good, coming back to center. We're going to shift our weight forward towards our hands, keeping even. So bringing our left knee into the chest, stepping it forward. Right here, shift your weight to your fingertips so that we're preparing to come up straight center. Shoulders stacked over hips in one straight line. And hands come into prayer pose center. Taking 2 breaths here. Inhaling through the nose long. Shoulders stacked on top of hips. And exhale through the mouth. Again, inhaling long, feeling a long lengthening from the top of the head. And exhale through the mouth. Third time, getting even taller from the top of the head, reaching high. And we exhale, we're going to bring our right elbow to our left thigh. And we're going to press. The goal here being to keep our hands right between our center chest. On every inhale, getting longer from the top of the head to the heel. Every exhaling, aiming to spiral even more from the chest. Inhaling long. Exhale, finding that release. And last time, inhaling long. And exhale, we're going to bring our hands to frame our feet. We're going to step back into downward facing dog. Lifting the heels high and pressing them back down. Good, so that's our warm up. We're gonna take the knees, we're gonna come back into child's pose. So taking the knees open wide to the edges of the mat and the soles of the feet together. Pressing the tailbone back into the heels. Pressing through the pads of the fingertips into the floor. Forehead reaches to the mat. Feeling that long line from the fingertips all the way to the tailbone. And just from here, staying in your child's pose, focusing on your breath here. So maybe your breath has changed, maybe it stayed exactly the same, but noticing how it has changed. If your breath has increased in speed, maybe your heartbeat is faster. Just did a lot of shifting, weight, and balancing just to get the body flowing before we move into some other things. Just taking a second to show up for yourself here on the mat. Scanning your body for any changes. Beautiful. So now we're going to come back into downward facing dog and we're going to transition into our next little segment of our yoga practice. Shifting our head towards our hands, either stepping or hopping to where the hands are. And rolling up, finding standing again. So for this next pose, we're going to go into chair pose. So the feet, you want to keep the feet together. And so ideally, as we go into this, you don't want to just let your tailbone release completely to the back. You want to feel a slight tucking happening. So what's going to happen is we're going to lift on a little releve here. And as we bend, we're going to shift the tailbone straight back, trying to keep this angle, but still a flat back from the shoulders to the hips. Trying to get deep into the knees. You still should be able to see your toes a little bit, so you still should be able to lift those toes off the ground. And here with this line, rather than letting that back arch, you want to have a very, very slight, almost don't tuck necessarily, but you do want to think of the tailbone coming just a little bit underneath you in a way so that you're keeping this straight line from the shoulders to the hips. From here, two options. One would be keeping the arms directly at your ears. Option two would be goalpost arms. So keep pressing those shoulders down towards your obliques, keeping that opening. So option one, option two. I'll show it with my hands above my head. We're going to reach here in our chair pose. We're going to hold here. You're going to start to feel maybe a little bit of burning, but this is definitely a little bit more of an endurance test. And we're going to hold here for 10, 9, 8, reaching long, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Staying here, hands coming into prayer position. We're going to find another twist here. So we're going to bring this time our right elbow over our left thigh. Same prayer twist idea, just in chair pose this time. Feeling a long line from the top of our head to our hip. And now we don't want to have one knee peeking out the side. We want to try and keep our knees at the same distance. So we don't want one hip to shift forward or back, but rather we want to keep them even and have the upper body twisting in opposition to that. Reaching long. And as we exhale, finding twist, maybe even more of a deeper bend in the knees. And release here. We're going to forward fold, fingertips release towards the floor. You can have a little bit bend in the knee here, whatever feels comfortable, whatever feels natural to your hips. And just releasing here, shaking the head yes and no, giving yourself a little break for that hard work. And we're going to go round two on the second side. So in one swift motion, bringing the arms up, coming into our chair pose. One strong line from the top of the head to the hips. Slight pelvis tuck to keep our back from arching. Slight tucking happening. Long line, feeling the core engaged. Arms reaching from the back. Trying to get even deeper into that bend. We're holding for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hands coming into prayer pose center. Lifting long on our inhale. As we exhale, reaching that left elbow over the right thigh. Once again, try not to get one knee peeking out, but keeping the hips at the same distance, not one hip shifting forward and back. Upper body in opposition twisting. Trying to get an even deeper bend in those knees. Remembering that long line. Inhale, get longer. Exhale, twisting more, trying to reach those hands for the center body. Last time, inhaling long. And exhale, reach long to the ground, feeling a stretch in those hamstrings. Letting the head, neck, and shoulders go. Shaking the head, yes and no. Letting any tension go. Beautiful. Stay here for just 1 second. Make sure we're keeping the time. Beautiful. So from here, we're going to step that left leg back into a slight lunge. And we're going to come straight up. Not a big lunge as big as before, but a slight lunge. And we're going to open to what's called our warrior 2 position. So what this means is that our back foot, so for me, that would be my left foot. My left foot is open parallel with the side of the mat, and my right foot is open, turned out to a 90-degree angle. I want to have my hips square to this side, facing direction, so even though I'm going to twist my upper body to face this wall, I want to have my hips square to the side, and we're going to bend that front knee over. You don't want it to come forward or back at all. You want to keep that 90-degree angle working over that front leg. And if at any point you feel some sort of balance shifting or anything like that, you want to press into that back foot, the side foot down further into the mat. Bringing the arms long, coming straight out from the shoulders. And we're going to shift our gaze over that front hand. And we're holding here, going from that 90-degree angle from the thigh to the knee on that the right leg, or whichever leg is your front leg. And we're holding here for 10, 9, 8, deeper stretch, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Straighten that leg. So we want to keep our knee on this almost train track. So we don't want the knee to come forward or back to avoid any injury, but we want to keep it on the same train track as our foot is pointing in, keeping it bending over that same direction. We're going to go one more time from here. We're reaching those arms out long from the shoulders, bending that knee over the train track that our foot is making, and holding for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're going to take standing side angle. So we're going to bring the forearm into the middle of our thigh, and we're going for not trying to sink into this right side, but keeping length in both the right and left side, and reaching that left arm directly over the head, so elbow should connect with the ear. Finding that length, setting ourselves up, and for an added challenge, we're going to bring that right arm in line. Remember, we're not crunching into that right side, and we're going to hold for 8, 7, 6, 5, checking that knee, 4, 3, 2, and 1, release the arm. And on the train track that your foot is making, straighten that knee up, straighten the leg, and we're going to turn the right leg in, shifting to warrior 2 on the left side. So this foot is pointing directly towards the camera screen, and my left foot is turning out on the same line as my mat is going towards the wall. Keeping my arms coming straight out directly from the shoulders. Shoulders are rolling back, they're not up. Even if our arms get tired, we want to feel them consciously coming from the back. And bending that knee over the train track, creating that 90-degree line, keeping our hips square to the camera screen, and holding here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, reaching longer, 1, and pressing that knee up, double checking our hips, making sure they're square, making sure our left foot is completely rotated, turned out, Making a 90-degree angle, reaching the arms out long, gazing over that front middle finger, and we hold for 8, 7, 6, 5, try to get even lower, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bending that forearm into the thigh, reaching that right arm straight up towards the ear, not sinking into the oblique, but reaching it long. And for that added challenge, that oblique strengthener as well as your thigh, you'll feel a little bit. And holding here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 2 long lines, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. Coming back and straightening up, recentering yourself. And now we're going to turn both legs parallel to the side, to the front camera. And we're going to go for a little bit of a hip opener as well as a shoulder opener stretch. So you can grab your wrist, you can grab your hands, whatever feels comfortable. If you have like a towel or something, you can also hold that behind you. So I'm going to hold my fingertips and reaching the shoulders down and back. We're going to aim to have the hands leading up first, which is going to bring our upper body as well as our shoulders forward, reaching the head straight through the middle of the legs, letting the head go. If you feel any strain on the arms, you can release them at any point. And whenever you feel like it, release that bind, release the hands, and bringing them in towards your center line, just gently using your hands to guide your head in between your feet. Feel the stretch here, the backs of the legs, pressing the sides of the feet long into the ground. And if you are having difficulty getting your head close to the ground, you can widen your feet even more, bring your head closer. If that's too easy, you can bring your feet in. Any adjustments can be made. Just letting your spine relax long, focusing on the length here. And here we're going to bend into our right leg, taking sort of a side lunge, keeping the upper body dropped over, feeling the release and the shifting of the hips. And holding, feeling length in that left leg. And straightening the right leg, shifting back to center. Try not to slam our knees, but gently controlled. We're going to bend that left knee over toe, up over the toes, and feeling that stretch in the right leg, the right thigh. Releasing the upper body, the upper back, and stretching the legs. Good, we're going to come up, so finding that bind again to bring you up. Binding behind the back and using that to pull you up chest first. Coming up to standing. The last thing we'll do here, we're going to turn out the feet. So at about a 45-degree angle, you're going to turn out the feet, and we're going to find pretty generous width in the legs. Bending the knees, we're going to take our goddess squat. So prayer hands with the arms, finding that center line right in between your right and left feet. And we're going to hold here with little pulses. We're going to pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and hold at the bottom point. Reaching the arms flex out straight from the legs. We're going to hold here just in this position for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Straightening the legs, releasing the arms. We're going to bend that left leg, stepping it forward into our right leg, and slowly in your own way, finding your way to the ground. And this is going to begin our floor series as we start to wind down. We'll do some core stretches here and a hip opener before we have our final corpse pose. So from here, just finding the back long on the ground, releasing the legs down towards the corner of the mat, long on the ground, feeling the backs of the thighs and the whole spine pressing into the ground, feeling that oneness of the body, and just taking a second for yourself to mentally scan where your breath is, how fast your heart is beating, any changes that might be different in your body from the beginning of class to now. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. One more time, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. We're going to begin our bridge series. So we're going to take the bottoms of the feet about hip-width distance apart, pressing into the ground, isolating one vertebrae at a time, and releasing our arms long towards the ground. We're going to tuck the tailbone, and that's going to start the domino effect of each vertebrae of the spine coming up until your shoulders are in one line with your hips, and all you can see are your knees. And we're going to hold in this position for 3, 2, 1, trying to keep those thighs parallel. And then starting with the top of the spine, the chest, the stomach, all the way down to the tailbone, and releasing at the bottom. One more time, coming up like this, tucking the tailbone in between the legs, underneath the core, underneath the back and chest, holding here. And we're going to hold at the top, shifting your weight slightly onto that left leg. We're going to extend the right leg long with the flexed foot, and we're going to go down and press up. Isolating one vertebrae at a time, rolling down, release the pelvis, and up. Third time, last time, down, releasing the pelvis at the bottom, and tucking the tailbone, pressing up, and staying up, keeping that line from the shoulders to the hips to the knees, shifting that weight into the right leg, left leg reaches long. Top of the spine, one at a time, isolates down to the pelvis and releases. Tailbone tucks and presses up through the back and up. Second time, rolling down underneath the chest, down to the tailbone, release, and tucking the tailbone, pressing up. One more time like this, down, isolating each part of the vertebrae, and release, and tucking the tailbone, pressing up. Allowing that foot to make contact with the ground, and one vertebrae at a time, releasing all the way down. Allowing the legs to stretch out. We're going to flip now over onto our belly. So pressing your hands down directly underneath where your shoulder blades are, and we're going to go back to pressing the tops of our feet into the ground like we were doing our cobras earlier. From here, we're going to try and bring our back up. So the top of the chest, from the top of the head to the chest, is going to lift up. Just here, finding this slight press and lifting those arms off the ground. We're going to start to feel the back engaging slightly, pressing into the tops of those feet. We're going to inhale here long and release. Head goes to the mat. We're going to start to pick it up and trying to find your maximum height that you can, engaging the lower back, pressing up to the top of the head, lifting the arms up and holding for 3, for 2, for 1, and release. Again, after your exhale on your inhale, pressing up to the head, we lift up and we hold for 3, 2, and 1, release down. Last time, up, pressing into the tops of the feet, hold, stay for 3, 2, 1. Now, added challenge, we're going to take the arms directly out from the shoulders, finding the engagement here. And as we come up, the shoulders are going to roll back, feeling the engagement from our back to our fingertips. And we press up into the tops of the feet, through the top of the head, rolling the shoulders back. And we hold for 3, 2, and 1, release down. Pressing up, top of the head. Coming up for 3, 2, shoulders down, and release. Last time like this, coming up on the inhale from the top of the head, pressing the tops of the feet into the ground, holding for 3, 2, and 1, release. You can either do this version now or send the arms Or to move on, we're going to go to our locust pose. So grab the outside of the feet with the hands, unless you're going to keep one of the first two variations. Grabbing the outside of the feet, allowing one cheek or the other to release on the mat. As we press up, we're going to kick the tops of the feet into the hands, which is going to bring our upper back up. So rather than starting with the top of the head, we're pressing energy from the top of the feet into the hands. Here we go. Coming up, either version 1, 2, or adding this one, 3. Pressing the tops of the feet into the hands. Shoulders pressing down. We hold here, finding our maximum height for 3, 2, 1. Release down. Good. 2 more times. Tops of the feet pressing into the hands, or taking one of the first two variations. We press up and hold for 3, 2, and 1. Release down. Last time, pressing the tops of the feet, rolling the shoulders back. We press up for 3, hold 2, and 1. Release all the way down. Hands drop to below the shoulders. We're going to press up into the cobra, feeling that same kind of release but supported from our hands this time. If you want an added bonus, pressing into the tops of the feet, lifting those hips up off the ground, and releasing back down into the ground. The last thing that we will do, one of the last things, starting pressing into our downward facing dog, we're going to take a couple hip openers just to finish us off. Taking the right leg, the right knee, into the chest. From here, we're going to drop that knee into our center line, and we're going to work for our pigeons. So I'll talk you through this one. You can modify it in any way, and I'll give modifications as we go. But you want to work for your personal best, wherever your flexibility is, kind of just working with that and taking it in increments. So with our knee at our center line, and we're going to start with our left heel, having direct energy towards the back wall. We open our right leg, so walking that foot out. At some point, we'll have the full 90-degree angle pigeon, but for now, it can be tucked at a 45-degree angle, just working for that center line and knee to be directly aligned, and that back heel rotating for parallel. Starting with our shoulders stacked over our hips, we're going to release the back leg and flat back down, reaching the arms directly out in front of us. The idea here is that you want to keep your hips as square as they can be. So at some point they will have to shift open a little bit, but you want to work to have, especially this left hip, rather than just opening to the side, we want to have it stacked underneath us so you'll feel directly centered between two hips rather than rolling to one or the other. So as we flat back forward, working for that centering of the hips, bringing that left hip in direct alignment with our right hip, and pressing this right tailbone down towards the ground, releasing the left leg long. And here, it may be difficult, but you want to try and find the breath in it. So that's why we practice with our inhales and exhales, is so that you have it here, inhaling through the nose, feeling that length long from the tops of the toes to the top of the head, and exhale, releasing, centering the hips even more, finding even more length in that back leg, feeling that opening of the hips. One more breath here, inhaling through the nose, exhaling long, feeling that length, releasing into the ground, and walking our hands back up to meet the hips. We're going to keep our right leg where it is. How far out it might be is going to be different, but we're going to swing that back leg, the back leg over the right leg. So my left leg is over my right, and we want to press both sides of your tailbone down towards the ground and pressing both feet down. Feeling this length, the shoulders stacking directly on top of the hips. You should feel a little bit of a twisting in the hips, so we want to work to have both seat bones down on the ground. And a little extra, if this feels relatively comfortable to you, you can try and bring that right leg closer into the 90-degree angle of the thigh and pressing forward, dropping the head and chest down towards the legs, feeling an even deeper stretch in that left hip. Trying to find some semblance of release here, not being super tense, but allowing your breath to give you some sense of ease. Inhaling long, exhaling, allowing yourself to drop into this stretch. Last time, inhaling and exhale. Good, we're gonna circle that left leg back, coming back into a half pigeon, tucking the toes under and back into our downward facing dog. One leg might feel a little bit longer than the other right now. We're gonna bring that left knee into the chest, or whichever leg you didn't do yet, and dropping that knee down towards the center line, directly the center of my chest. Reaching that right heel, towards the back wall, energy long from the heel. And as we flat back forward, releasing that right leg, walking that left foot out in a way that's manageable for you to keep your hips directly underneath your center line, and reaching forward with the arms. Reaching long, reaching that forehead for the floor, bringing that right hip right underneath you, under your center line, and reaching the left tailbone for the ground. Here, finding your breath, inhaling long, and as you exhale, finding the release, finding the added stretch. Breathing at your own time, inhaling through the nose, and exhaling long through the mouth. Allowing the shoulders to release here, the neck to release. No added tension. Focusing on the opening of that hip. And on your next exhale, coming up, bringing those fingertips up underneath your hips, and bringing that back leg over the front leg, crossing, reaching the hips even for the ground. Pressing both feet down into the ground, maybe taking your right foot, walking it out to make a 90-degree angle with the thigh. And either staying here or releasing the chest forward. Inhaling long and exhaling, pressing in, finding that release in the hip. Allowing the head to drop. Allowing the shoulders to release. Releasing any added tension. Good, and go ahead, straight from here. We're gonna take the legs long and find our final corpse pose. Feet can be about hip width distance apart. And lengthening the back down onto the ground. Palms face the ceiling. Hips rotate out. Finding the ease in this position. No tension being held here in the hips. Maybe shaking the fingertips and the toe tips. Just the littlest bit of energy as you release every single part of the body, from the toes to the knees, to the hips, chest, shoulders, fingertips, forehead. We'll take 3 breaths here. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Again, inhaling through the nose. On the exhale, releasing any place in your body that feels tense. And last time, inhaling long through the nose. And exhale through the mouth. We'll rock onto our right side, or whichever side is closest to the screen. And walking yourself up, final seated position. And we'll just close here, taking a second to just close your eyes, focusing on the space around you, taking it in, and coming to peace with it. And we'll close with one final breath all together, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. And that is all. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed.